So where are we today in the campaign? Some of this I'm going to say is stuff that you all know. I do believe we can still win this nomination. He will be the next president of the United States. And I think we have to understand that. And this is not about BSing people, because I really do believe that we can do that. Now, even Bernie and every single person around him, and I'm one of the diehards. I've said I'm going to have his back and be with him to the last day, to the last hour, until he says he's not doing it. We know it's a hard path, right? It's a narrow path to win. We know we have to win a large share of the pledged delegates, which is why I'm standing here. I know this is really hard for me. I'm standing here drinking wine with some nice people in a beautiful setting. But we have to work really, really hard. And when I'm done, Kyla's going to talk about some of the things we have to do in the next few days. But if we do that, and if we knock on doors, and if we reach out to people, I think we can win California, and I think we can win it with a strong victory. And we can win a large part of the delegates. Now, here's a fact, and it's a thing I've been fighting. Heidi mentioned I'm on CNN a lot. I fight with these producers all the time, and with the reporters and the people debating. They want to call this election as done, right? You all know. They want to say it's over. And I've had these I've had these very intense conversations with people explaining to them that it just isn't true. Okay? It is not true that the election is over. It's not going to be over on June 7th. It's not going to be over on June 14th, which is the last primary, which is the District of Columbia. It's only going to be over when those superdelegates stand on the floor of the convention, along with the pledged delegates, and vote. So the one thing we have to do as a collective group, and this is what I'm going to do in the next 10 days, I'm going to do it by appealing to the media people, but we need to, on our social media and talking to people, whether you're knocking on doors, on Facebook, we need to put out there that nothing is going to be clinched on June 7th. And I think what's happened is the media has put that narrative out, and some people have become a little bit demoralized. Some people thought, why should we work so hard? So we need, as activists, and I'm assuming that a lot of you are real committed people, we need every single day, every time you knock on a door, every time you're talking to a friend, you need to pass that message on. This, I'm going to repeat it again, this nomination will only be decided when on the convention floor, which is the end of July, all the pledged delegates and the superdelegates vote. Okay, did I say that clearly enough? And we need to know that. Those are just numbers. Neither candidate, neither Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders will have enough pledged delegates at the end of this process to win the nomination. And so we now have to convince, and it's tough, I want to be honest. We've been campaigning against the establishment, and most of the superdelegates are the establishment. That's why they get to be superdelegates, by almost definition. We have to convince them that Bernie is the strongest candidate to beat Donald Trump in November. And I would say that two things about that. The polls are certainly showing that. One of the things that happens when I bring that up, when I'm debating other Democrats, they say, oh, and you probably heard this too, Bernie has not been vetted. You've heard that, right? Bernie has not endured the kinds of attacks that Hillary Clinton has endured over all her career. And the answer, in case this comes up to you, is a very simple one. When you are faced with negative attacks by anybody, in politics or in any other circumstance, the most effective way of countering that is for a person who's listening to that to think that you're authentic and that you tell the truth. There is nobody in this campaign, even conservatives will say this to me privately, there's nobody in this campaign that has higher trust, a higher sense of authenticity than Bernie Sanders. So when he does, as the nominee, he's going to endure these attacks. They're going to call him a Democratic socialist. Oh my God. They're going to say he's from Vermont, which maybe is worse for the Democratic socialist. I'm just kidding, people from Vermont. So he's going to endure that. There's no question about that. But when the average person is listening to that, and then they hear his response, this man has such authenticity. He has such an ability to communicate with people, and for people to say, I may not agree with this guy, but he's telling me it straight. And I think that is both what ignited the movement and ultimately what will bring him to victory. Now, in contrast, and you notice I've tried to stay away from talking about his opponent too much, because I just like to talk about Bernie. But the fact is that we have a status quo candidate that has record high negative ratings. Now, some of that is because of sexism. Some of that is because, no question, she's been attacked by Republicans for all sorts of things. But the truth is that part of it is because she's not authentic. And almost much of what comes out of Hillary Clinton's mouth, and I say this because I think it's mostly poll tested, is not authentic. And I think people have caught on to that. And when she responds to things, it doesn't give a sense to people, it makes people uncomfortable. And it's one reason that, but for Donald Trump, she actually likes Donald Trump in the race because Donald Trump has slightly higher negatives. It's true. If you look at those numbers, that's kind of a sad thing. We've got two people who are potentially might face each other who have the highest negative ratings ever for two major the nominees for two parties. Now, I don't believe she's going to be the nominee, but if she is, it'll be an ugly campaign, and it'll come down to the opposite of what we're about. That campaign between the two of them will be about driving down people's desired vote. Because it'll be negativity, what it does is suppresses the vote. It makes people say, it's a nice day outside, I'm gonna stay home. Or I'm gonna go out to the beach, I'm not gonna go vote. That's what negative campaigns do. It's not about driving up your people to come out to vote, it's about suppressing the vote of the other person. Our campaign has been completely about uplifting people, bringing in lots of people. Bernie has said 1,000 times, if not 10,000 times, right? When we have high voter turnout, we win. When we have low voter turnout, you've probably heard this, we lose elections. And so our whole idea, and what Bernie has carried the flag, and I think what's inspired lots of people all across the country, is the idea that we want people engaged in the political process. We want people to take ownership over their country. We want people to throw over and get rid of establishment politics and replace it with a people power politics. And that, I think, is really connected with people. And it's the reason that I think, obviously, Bernie is the most effective candidate, the most powerful candidate, and I do believe he's going to be elected President of the United States. I do believe that firmly. But we have to work really, really hard. And what I want to close with, and then I want to have a little time question and then ask Kyle to come up. So I do all this for free. You know, I've done this for 9 or 10 months. Like everybody has sacrificed. And I don't consider it a sacrifice because I consider it the greatest privilege I've had in my lifetime. To actually campaign for Bernie and to try to bring what lots of us have campaigned for a long, long time. So we have to work even harder than that. And those of you who have given 1 hour, we have to think about giving 2 hours. And those of you who have given, you know, a little of your time, think about more. Heidi can't give more of her time. There's no more time in the day. You do 24/7, give up your house, you know. I'm surprised you're still married. You know, you haven't filed for divorce yet.
That's my husband right behind me.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Yes, it is possible.
I heard you're a great wine drinker and a great cook. Well, you have an amazing wife, you know that yourself, but she's done. But I think that all of us have to recommit. And what I say to people all across the country is that if I could tell you that if we gave extra hours and extra time, and that would mean that in 2 months we would have a completely different country, or a year from now, maybe 5 years from now, it's going to take time. Let's understand the political revolution is not going to happen the day Bernie's inaugurated. It's going to take 10 years. But if I would love to sign up for that, but it requires that we work even harder, even more than we thought. If you can donate a little more money, money is important, but honestly, the most important thing right now is to contact voters and to get them to vote. And winning in California, you all know this, I'm just going to say it again, winning in California by a big margin will go a long way to then moving those superdelegates in 50 days. Between June 7th and the end of the convention, when the convention is called for, it's about 50 days. A lot can happen in 50 days. 50 days in politics is like 5 lifetimes. So I want to close by saying, be encouraged, be enthusiastic, we can win this, and Bernie Sanders can be the next president of the United States. So thank you very much.